Well, it is true that I have been unlucky with every single vehicle I've been in today. It was interesting. Jay said, "Well, I'll drive you back to Mattoon." I keep wanting to say Mattoon. I'm going to get used to that. But he said, "I'll drive you guys back." Well, on the way back, the check engine light came on his car, and so that was okay. And then tonight, as we're driving over to Windsor, the check engine light comes on my car, and so we had to park that one. I think it's me. I'm pretty sure that it's just me. But I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm glad you're here tonight. I want to talk to you. We talked about God's family plan, and it seems just a little overconfident sometimes to be able to say God's family plan. And the reason I say that is that before I had children, I could give you his plan really easily. Before I had kids, I knew how you should raise yours. I was sure of it. I had it all figured out. And then I started having children. And my sermons went from, here's how you ought to raise your children, to handy advice for people who are, and then as my children got older, turned teenagers, and did all the things that they did, I found out that everything that I said my kids would never do, they did. Everything that I said I would do if they did it, I didn't. It didn't work out that way, and so I just went on and went sort of like struggling tips for those who are working through it like I am, that sort of thing. Having a family and raising a family, it would be great if every child came with a specific manual. And you said, okay, you say this, you press this button, you do this. They all turn out this way. But kids don't do that. That's not the way that works. And so we're all sort of, in a lot of ways, making it up as we go along. There's no question that families are in trouble. I was listening to statistics the other day that said that the districts that spend the most on schools, for the public schools, are the districts that have the lowest grades and the lowest performance. Those that spend the most have the lowest performance. But it's not about the money, guys. Let me tell you what it's about. In those same districts, families have fallen apart. When you lose the family, you lose so much in society. The very fabric of society is based in the family. And when that unit begins to break down, everything begins to unravel. And you can't educate in a situation where a person has to worry more about their family than they worry about other things. Those are just the way it is. So how do we do that? How do we raise our family? And here's the other thing that I find out. If you go through any bookstore, religious or secular bookstore, you'll find large sections of books about how to raise your kids. And every one of them are written by a doctorate who has something that he's experienced and advice for all of you. And what's amazing to me is that sometimes the advice on the one is the exact opposite of the advice in the other. I remember reading one guy that said, you should never, ever spank your children. You should never corporately punish your children because it has a negative effect on their entire life, and that violence will affect them for the rest of their life. And then just down by it was another book by a guy who said that children are born in sin and you got to beat the devil out of them. And I'm looking at those things and I'm thinking, okay, whose advice am I going to follow? When it comes down to knowing how to raise my children, whose advice am I going to follow? And I thought about, at times, following the advice that Mark Twain gave. He said that when your child is 12, you put them in a pickle barrel and nail on the lid and feed them through a knothole. And when they turn 16, plug up the knothole. And I thought, there were times I thought, all right, that sounds pretty good. But I really want to know, what is it that God wants me to do? And tonight, can I just tell you that I'm not going to be doing what I did last night, which was, as Daryl said, he said, you did everything but John 3:16 last night. And I'm probably not going to do that, although John 3:16 does say, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. I told him that I would do this. So I will just tell you that I'm going to really be spending time in 2 Old Testament Psalms, because I want to know, what does God say about raising my family? What does God say about that? And I want to talk to you. We're going to spend all of our time in 11 verses tonight. And I want you to turn in your Bibles with me, if you will, to Psalm 127 and Psalm 128. And we'll look at that together for a few moments. And what you're going to find out is God's advice, which is eternal. God's advice, which he knows what he's talking about, is advice that I need. And if I get to that, if we can look at that and gain from these 11 verses what it is that I think that he wants us to get, that it will help us. But it doesn't take too much to look at those 11 verses and realize that he's talking about the family in the 4 stages of family life. Verses 1 and 2 of Psalm 127 are about the family as a couple begins their married life together. That difficult stage where we learn to adjust to each other. 3 through 5 of that same Psalm, Psalm 127, is about the family as children begin to enter into the picture. When you move to Psalm 128, verses 1 through 3, the family, as you're going through those years of discipline, discipling, training, and ultimately releasing your children into the world. And then verses 4 through 6 is the family reduced to its original unit, the husband and wife spending their twilight years together. And I want you to see what he has to say about that, because that's the sequence that you find in these 11 verses. So go with me to verses 1 and 2 and look at it with me for a moment. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord builds the city, the watchman watches in vain. It's vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of painful labors, for he gives to his beloved even in his sleep. I want you to hear that with me for just a moment. Solomon wrote this psalm. And Solomon compares the building of a city and the guarding of the walls to the building of a family. And this is the family as it's just starting out. I have to share with you during parts of this some of my own experiences. I remember before I got married that people would say, 2 can live as cheaply as 1. Either they've never been married, or they're just lying through their teeth so that you'll get married. I'm not sure what that is, but I have never found that 2 can live as cheaply as 1. It doesn't work that way. There's 2 people eating. There's 2 people doing the things that we're doing. It is difficult. And there's a lot of adjustment that has to be made during those days. When 2 people are raised together in different families, even though they might have very similar cultures, they've been raised differently. And they have to learn how to get along. They have to learn how to communicate. They have to learn how to get all those things done. I grew up in a family where my mother always made my bed. I got married to a woman who said, "When are you going to make the bed up?" I said, "I never have." She had to show me how to do it. In my family, my mother took out the garbage. In Beverly's family, her daddy took out the garbage, and she kept waiting for me to do it, and I kept waiting for her, and we got aggravated at each other because the other one wasn't doing it. We had to learn. All of us had to learn. There's a lot of difficult things that you have to learn as you're moving in with one another and trying to learn to build a life together. So what does God say about that? Listen to what he says first. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman watches in vain. That's the first thing that he tells you. When you're starting out in your family, you need to start right. And how is it that you start right? You start right by making the Lord the one who builds that house. What do I mean by having the Lord build the house? Does it mean that I paste different verses up on my mirror so that I can read them every morning, or have a big family Bible on my coffee table? Is that what? That's not what that means. Although all those things are good, but that's not what that means. The Lord building the house means that the Lord becomes the center of our life. There's nothing more important to us than the Lord. That he is the one that we love more than we love our spouses. He's the one we love more than we love ourselves. He's the one whose influence pervades every section and dark corner of our lives, and we're not holding anything back from him. Every single part of our life, even the parts that nobody else knows about, that's being opened, and the Lord is shining his light in that corner too. He's building our house. Can I just tell you that it's a conscious decision you have to make? That never happens by accident. The Lord never builds your house by accident. Here's what happens if you're not consciously making the Lord the center of your life. You still have to pay the house payment or the rent payment. You still have to pay the electric bill. You still have to get everything done that needs to be done. Buy the groceries, make up the beds, clean the house, do the things, mow the lawn, all the stuff that goes along with it. And what happens is that unless you consciously, intentionally make the Lord the center of your life is secular. Your marriage is not about the Lord. Your marriage is about the stuff. It's about all the things that life is going to demand. And life will demand everything you'll give it. Whatever it is you allow life to take from you, life will take. So you have to make a decision early on that your life is not going to be about the stuff. Your life is going to be about God. It's not going to be whoever has the most toys wins. That's not what our life is going to be about. It's going to be about the Lord. And this is what he says about that. It's vain for you to rise early, to retire late, to eat the bread of painful labors. What's he saying? He's saying, if you're trying to build your life without me, you're going to get up early and go to work. You're going to work late because you're going to want the stuff. And here's what you're going to get, the bread of painful labors. In the end, what you're going to get is an exercise in futility. You want more and more and more, and it's never enough. And you keep trying for more and more and more and believing somehow that more and more and more is going to make you happy. Can I tell you that if straight teeth made you happy, looking good made you happy, everybody in Hollywood would be married for 50 years. But they're not, are they? Because it's not about that. If stuff made you happy, Donald Trump would have only had one marriage. I'm just telling you. It's not the way that works. And I'm not trying to knock Donald Trump. I'm just saying that's the way that is. That stuff is not going to make it. And all of our commercials are about that. Everything that you see in America tells you you have to have more stuff. You know, the whole point of America is that if you are satisfied with what you have, the economy collapses. Because we have to make you want more stuff. That keeps our businesses going. It keeps everything going. And so you see it in all kinds of commercials. I remember one a few years back that was really interesting. It was done by a national jewelry chain. And this is what it basically said. The woman wakes up and she realizes that her alarm didn't go off in time. And so she rushes around to try to get things done. And nothing is going really well. She has to skip breakfast. She runs out to catch the bus. She just misses it, but it's raining. And the bus splatters water all over her. She gets to work and the boss is all over her all day. And everything is falling apart. And then the last scene, she's sitting in her living room, serene. And it said, this day started badly, but I got this bracelet. And my life, life is so good. I got this bracelet. It's telling you if you really want to be happy, you got to have this stuff. If you really want to be happy, you got to have the right name on the back of your jeans. If you want to be happy, you have to live in the right neighborhood. If you want to be happy, your car has to be a certain kind of car. If you want to be happy, that's the way it's going to be. You'll eat the bread of painful labors. This won't work. I'm just telling you. But what if you started that way? Because so many people did. So many people just by default have developed a secular marriage. What do you do when that happens? You make up your mind that starting today, my life's going to be about him. As for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. From this point on, that's what we're going to do. And can I tell you that's not going to be easy? Because it means the rearrangement of priorities. It means that I'm going to be going through some tedious and difficult things, changing the way that I've lived, the way that I've loved, the way that I've acted. All that's going to change. And it's not an easy change, but here's the promise that you have from God, that he gives to his beloved even in his sleep. You know what that means? That means God says, if you will turn your priorities toward me, I will work overtime while you're sleeping to make sure you have the things to make that commitment stick. I'll do that for you. Just put me first. What is it that it takes to have the kind of marriage, kind of family that God wants? If he's not at the center, it's going to fall apart. Can I tell you that all of us are often just not very nice people, okay? That we have our moments where we fail each other. I hear couples, when they get ready to get married. I'm doing a wedding for one of my grandsons down in New Orleans on Saturday. So we leave here and go basically straight from here down to New Orleans because they decided to have a wedding venue that isn't where anybody lives in the most miserable place on earth. But that's what they want to do. They want to have it there. So we're going to go there. And they first said, we're going to write our own vows. And I said, you are? They said, yes, we are. I said, I want to read them before you say them. And they said, why? I said, because if it's poetic, you're dead. I said, I hear people write their own vows, and these are the kind of things they say. I will never make you cry. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'll never disappoint you. The only people that ultimately really disappoint you are the people you love, because you don't care if the other people let you down. I didn't care about them, but I care about these people. And I said, you know what a vow is? A vow is, God, if I don't keep this, kill me. That's what it means. That's what a vow means. I said, you're going to be dead in 6 months. It's not going to work. You need to make the vow about the things that the vows are supposed to be about. So they did get on the Zoom with me this last Friday and say, we've decided to just repeat the vows. I said, good job. That's good. I appreciate that. But we are going to let each other down. How do we get past letting each other down? That the thing that connects us is not our perfection. The thing that connects us is not that we're doing everything right. The thing that connects us is we're not letting go of God. And if we don't let go of God, we don't let go of each other. That's the way that works, okay? Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Well, look at the next thing, okay? And these are the next 3 verses. This is the family as children are entering into the picture in that family. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. Like arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are the children of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but shall speak with their enemies in the gate. Now, I love that. How do you see your kids? How do you see your kids? I believe that somehow people think that folks a generation or so ago loved their children more than the present generation loves their children. And I'm not sure that's true at all. My grandparents, my grandmother on my mother's side had 11 children, okay? Do you know why they had 11 children? It wasn't because they thought, oh, kids are so great. They had 11 children because they were cheap labor. That's why they had 11 children. They worked on a farm, and the more kids they had, the less people they had to pay. And so the kids worked on the farm. It wasn't that they loved their kids more than you loved your kids. It wasn't that at all. Here's the thing. Children are a heritage from the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. Do you hear what he says? That children are a gift, that children are a heritage, that children are fruit, that children are a reward from God. Do you see your kids like that? Do you see your kids as a reward from God, as something special that God has given you? Beverly and I had Jim, our first, and he was expensive. By the way, that's another thing. He was expensive, but it was just over a year later that we were driving. I remember exactly where we were in Fort Lauderdale as we were driving down the road, and Beverly said, "Guess what?" And I said, No, I'm not sure we're finished paying for the first one yet. We got another one? Boy, I was really upset with her. I said, how did this happen? And I wanted to know. I thought it was really terrible. For about half a day, I was upset until I realized, I guess I had something to do with this. It's my fault too. Can I tell you, Tiffany has turned out to be this wonderful, wonderful daughter. It's been a great thing. There are no accidental children. God blesses us. He gives those children out as a reward to us. And we grow up because he gives us children. There's a reason why elders have to have kids. There's a reason why. Because he's maturing us, changing us, challenging us, and making us better. It's a gift from God. Every child is a gift. And I need to thank God every day for every child. He said, they're like arrows in the hand of a warrior. What does that mean? Here's what it means. That if you're a warrior and you use the bow and arrow, you sharpen that arrow, you make sure that it's straight, and then you send it to places where you're not. Okay? There are places my children will go, places my children will face challenges that I will never face. And my job is to make sure they're ready and to release them to do it. They're going to be in a future that I won't be in, and I want to make sure they're ready. Like children are like arrows in the hand of a warrior. And then he says, blessed is the man who has his quiver full of them. Yeah, well, that's true. Blessed is the man who has his quiver full of them. But also, he's going to be kind of tired, and a lot of other things are going to go with that. We had 5 in our quiver when we were growing up, and now we have 24 grandchildren to go with that, okay? And it's pretty remarkable, but we had 5 that were there. I can remember what that was like. You know, there were people who would come in every once in a while, they would have a family issue, and they said, we don't need to talk to you. You're a preacher. You wouldn't understand. And I thought, we have a special bubble by the Holy Spirit over our house so that we never get upset and nothing ever happens. No, I want to tell you, I have rock sick cats. I have fished out of the little thing that chews things up in your sink, those orthodontic devices that cost a ton of money, trying to fish them out, hoping we can salvage them just a little bit. We have a dryer that eats a sock a load. I don't know where they go. I have no idea. There is a sock heaven somewhere. I don't know where those things go. But we always lose socks. I delivered, let me just tell you, Beverly and I delivered candy that absolutely nobody wanted in the rain for our children because they had to sell it for some organization at school. I've done all that. You know, I've nursed sick rabbits. I have pulled the car out of places where the kids rolled it over into something. And I'm just telling you, I kind of understand. I remember one particular eldership asked Beverly and I to come to talk about moving to that congregation. And in order for them to decide, they wanted their wives to come along, wanted my family to come along. And we all sat down to dinner, and Tiffany was sitting right across the table from an elder, smiling when she began projectile vomiting all over him. It was the shortest tryout I've ever had. By the way, they hired me. That was amazing to me. But But all I'm saying is I understand all this stuff. I understand what you go through when you go through that. So what does he tell you in all of that? He says, see them as a gift. He says, and then he says, you'll not be ashamed, but will speak with your enemies in the gates. Your children will bless your life, open up doors you wouldn't be able to open any other way. But in order for that to happen, number one, God has to be at the center in all of this. Number two, every child has to be considered a unique gift from God. No two gifts are the same. No two children are the same. I hear parents tell me, I raised both my children exactly alike and they turned out so different. Well, that was your problem. Don't raise them exactly alike. When the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he'll not depart from it, we misuse that passage all the time. You know what that passage really says? It says, train up a child according to his way, and when he's old enough to shave, he will not depart from it when he gets to be a teenager. It's not talking about an old man. It's talking about when he gets old enough. Here's what it says. Every child has a unique bent. When Jim came along, our first, he would say, when do you want me to get up? I'll get up then. When do you want me to go to sleep? That's all right. If you want to feed me now, great. If you want to feed me later, that's okay. Everything's fine. You want to put me in the car and travel somewhere? I'll be fine with that. And I thought I was the best dad. We were the best parents on earth, and then we had Tiffany. And then I realized we were really lucky, okay? She came out different. Feed me now, take care of me, and I'll sleep when I want to. And this house is about me, not about you, and you need to know that. And that's the way that worked. Every child's different. Raise them according to their way. Find out who they are. Raise them according to their way so that they will be consistent people with their very nature when they get old enough to be teenagers. They'll know who they are. Okay, this is really what that passage is all about. It's not talking about if you just teach them these doctrines, then when they get to be really old, they'll come back to them. It's not talking about that. Treat them as individual gifts. Well, I want to move on because I'm just talking. So I told you I was going to talk. Look over to Psalm 128. What does the Bible say about that time when the children move on from being little children and now you're in those discipling training years? What are you going to do? Here's what it says. Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. When you eat the labor of your hands, you'll be happy and it will be well with you. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine in the very heart of your house. Your children like olive plants all around your table. Somebody said, you know what? That's a pipe dream. We did have people that told us when our children were small, they said, they're really cute now. Enjoy them because when they get to be teenagers, you're going to hate them. And here's what we found out. That our children, when they got to be teenagers, made us stretch. There were things that I thought that I had solved as a teenager myself and only realized that I had outgrown them. I hadn't ever solved them at all. I had to solve them when my children were teenagers, okay? It was a whole different thing. I had to learn and grow with them. And yes, they challenged us, and sometimes they pushed boundaries. In fact, often they pushed boundaries, and they made me think, and they made me stretch. But there was never a time we didn't love them. There was never a time that we weren't glad that we had them. Every one of them, including the ones that we adopted. We found that we loved them all. So how is this that they're like olive plants and your wife is there at the very heart of your house like a fruitful vine? What's it talking about? What does it mean that you'll be blessed? That means you're going to be happy. What does that mean? How does that happen? Well, remember that we started out, the Lord's the center of this house. Secondly, every child is unique, and we love them uniquely. I love each one of my children, but I love each one of them for different reasons, because every one of my children is different. You love them according to their way. You love them according to who they are. You don't expect them to be somebody else. I've often thought how difficult it would have been for James and Joseph and all the brothers of Jesus when they're growing up, when their mother says, why can't you be a little more like him? And you think, he's the Son of God. How am I supposed to be like him? Just train them according to their way, okay? This is what it is. And when that happens, when I do that, then they're going to be like olive plants all around my table. But I will tell you this, there are two things that are absolutely required of you when you have teenagers. Two things, if I can share these with you. Number one is you have to be authentic. As a parent, you have to be authentic. And what do I mean by that? Well, you need to be truthful with them. Don't give them some phony baloney message. When I was a teenager, we had to walk uphill both ways to get to school in 3 feet of snow. Don't tell them that. Okay? Don't say, well, when I was a teenager, I didn't kiss your mother until after we were engaged. Yeah, right. None of us believe that. None of us believe it. If you did, I'm sorry. If that's what it was for you, that's all right. But all I'm saying is that's just not real, okay? They expect you to be authentic. And you know what that means? That means that when you're afraid, it's okay for them to know you're afraid. And when you don't know what to do, it's okay to tell them, I'm not really sure what to do. And when you don't know where to go, you bring them to the Lord all the time. All the time. There was power in the Jewish family that sat every night and said the Shema. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Every night. Every night. There's a lot of things we don't know, and sometimes I need to say I'm sorry to my kids. But what they need to know is our God is right here, and he's the God who makes things well. He's the God who will cause all things to work together for good because we love him and we're called according to his purpose. We're going to bring them back to God. So be authentic. Don't be afraid to apologize when you're wrong. Your kids can take almost anything but a hypocrite. I just want to tell you that your teenagers can smell a hypocrite a mile away. They know. Be real with your kids. Second thing that's absolutely essential is that you show them genuine affection. Do you know one of the saddest things to me is when a girl gets to that area where her body begins to change, that a lot of dads pull out of their life like, oh, and they leave everything to the mother? Do you know the number one predictor of promiscuity in teenage girls is an absent father? Number one, above everything else. Every single young girl needs a man in her life that she can trust, that says, I love you, I love what you're becoming, I'm here for you, I'm always going to be here for you, I'm proud of you. You're helping her to become the strong person she needs to be. Every young man needs a woman in his life that says, I love the way you're growing up. I love the man you are. I love the man you're becoming. I'm so proud of you. Every single one of them needs that. Years ago, there was a study that was done in the old Soviet Union that I think most of you have probably heard about. But 12 baby monkeys were taken from their mothers just after they were born. And they had an experiment. They put them all in a single cage. And then they put 2 wire mesh mothers in that cage that were anatomically correct. One group, 6 of them, could only drink from one that was pure wire mesh, no covering. The other was covered with foam and terry cloth. And the theory was, when the scientists began that all that these children needed was nourishment. All they wanted was nourishment, so it wouldn't really matter if they were wire mesh or if they were touchable. But it turned out not to be the case, that all of the baby monkeys would hold on to the terry cloth mother. And the ones that couldn't drink from the terry cloth mother would hold on until they were starving. And then they would go and get a drink when they could and come straight back and hold on to the terry cloth mother. And what the Russian scientists discovered, who were total unbelievers, was that touch, softness, was more important than food. Can I just tell you, that's true with your kids? Every boy, every girl needs somebody that loves them, that's not afraid to touch them. And I'm not talking about inappropriate. I'm talking about getting close and touching. They really do. I remember I said this one time in a meeting, and on the back row over here, there was a teenage boy and his dad. The boy had come in a little bit late, so he sat down by his dad, and when I said that, his dad reached around to give him a hug. And I'll never forget, the boy went zip right down the pew, like, you're not touching me. And after services, the dad was standing on the back steps, and the boy walked by, and the dad just reached out and grabbed him and gave him a hug and said, I love you, son. And the boy said, Dad! And the dad looked at me like, what do I do? What he didn't see, that I could see, the boy went about 10 feet, turned around and smiled at his dad. It meant something to him. It might have been embarrassing. Oh, but it meant something to him. Be authentically touchable, authentically lovable when you're raising your kids. If you want to raise them and have them, I think they don't need as many rules as they need love. They just need that from you. They really do. Well, what does that mean for me after all of them have gone away? Beverly and I have been working at being empty nesters for a long time. It never works. They keep coming back. But what is it like what is it like? And by the way, I love that. I love that. I love that they keep coming back. But Psalm 128, verses 4 through 6, listen. Behold, thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. The Lord bless you out of Zion, and may you see the good of Jerusalem all the days of your life. May you see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel. Did you hear what he said? That if you raise your kids as unique gifts from God in the Lord, that you spent that time loving God and training them in that way, then in the end, he says, you'll be blessed. Not only will you be blessed, but Zion will be blessed. Jerusalem will be blessed, and Israel will be at peace. When you've raised your children that way, the whole world is blessed by the fact that you've released your children into society. Because you've released some children that aren't going to steal from the cash register, that are going to give a good day's work for a good day's pay. You have released children into the world that have values. You've released children in the world who are not ashamed to talk about their faith. The world is better because of that. Peace be upon Israel, and peace be upon you. Blessed is the man who fears the Lord. The Lord bless you. May you see the good of Jerusalem all the days of your life. We have more information technology available to us today than at any time in human history. You can go to your phone, you can go to your tablet, you can go to your computer, you can go to your television, you can go to your radio, you can go in almost any direction you want to go and get the news. We have become obsessed with it. Have you noticed that? That all of a sudden you're carrying that phone everywhere, and whatever comes to mind. I wonder how tall George was. I got to know. You know, I wonder what's happening. I got to know. And we want to know all the information. Let me tell you the most important information. What is happening in your home changes the world. What is happening in your home is more important than what's going on in Ukraine. What's happening in your home, because it changes the future. You are changing the world in your family. If you want the world to change, this is where you start, right here. And if you have, peace be upon you in the day when that happens. One of these days, you're going to make your favorite dessert. And you're going to say, I don't want to see any fingerprints in the icing. And I want all the pieces to be together until after supper. And supper will come, and the cake will be perfect. One of these days, you're going to go into the bathroom, and you're going to get all the hose off the racks, and you're going to get all the colored soap off the walls. You're going to pick up all the wash rags and the towels and everything that's in there and the extra clothes. And you're going to say, and I want this to stay clean. And the next day it'll be clean. One of these days you're going to walk into the bedroom. You're going to get all the stuffed animals and put the bed together just right. You're going to make sure that everything is right in place where it is. And you'll say, and I want this room to be neat. And a week later it still is. One of these days you're going to yell out, why don't you kids grow up? And the silence will answer back, we did. What's your life going to be like then? It depends on what you're doing now. And by the way, if your kids are already grown and gone, you still have impact on those grandkids. You still have impact on those kids. One of the things I've discovered is you never get over being a parent. It's going to be that way for your whole life. You have a chance. Some of you will have nieces and nephews, and you have the opportunity to make their life better. Don't miss that chance. Don't miss that chance. Kids grow up. My son turned 50 just this past year. I couldn't believe it. We went up to celebrate with him to Oregon. He's a physician in Oregon. We went up to celebrate that time and spent a week with him, and it was absolutely wonderful. And the entire time that I'm watching him walk down the beach with his boys, I'm thinking, I remember the day you were born. It was yesterday. I remember how they handed you to me, and I had no idea how to hold you. I remember mamas always knew. I didn't know how. I kept thinking his head was going to fall off. And so I would put him in my arm and carry him around like a football because I didn't know how else to carry him. I just carried him around that way all the time. And now he's 50. When he turned 9, I realized half of my time with him is gone at home. The day he turned 9, I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? How have I spent this time? I have so little time left. Life is like a vapor. It appears for a little while and then vanishes away. You only have a few moments. I'm asking you to make the most of those moments. And if you didn't start out with the Lord at the center, this is a moment to put him at the middle. If you've not yet been baptized into Christ, I'm asking you to obey the Lord when he said, he who believes and is baptized shall be saved. I ask you to do what he asked you to do. And if you are a child of God, but somehow you've been living your life more about you and more about your work and more about all the other stuff that life is demanding of you, it's time to refocus. It's time to confess your faults one to another and pray one for another. It's time to say, Lord, I've been in the far country in a pig pen a little bit too long. I need to come home. And God runs to meet you. And that's what this invitation is about. Because what we're doing right here, right now, it's family. This isn't just a bunch of people that get together to sing a few songs. This is family. And everybody here is praying for everybody here that nobody will leave here without being right with the family, without being right with the Father. If you need to be baptized, if you need to come and ask for prayer, why not right now while we stand and sing?